And welcome to another exciting video. In this one, we'll see how we can style React components with class name and inline styles. Now, application layout is only one part of the user interface equation. Another part is styling. In this lesson, we will explore the class name and style prop for styling our components. This lesson goes much deeper than that. We'll learn why class name is class name and not class, like it is in HTML. And we'll learn why the style prop accepts an object of camel case styles rather than a string of CSS like it does in HTML. We'll take it even further by creating a reusable component that encapsulates these styles and composes the given class name and style prop together. You're going to love this one. Now over here you can see we have this div and a bunch of styles created in our HTML document. And now we want to style this div with that CSS. To apply that CSS, we are going to add a class name of box to get that box around this div. So here we'll say class name and we'll give that box over here. Save this. And now you can see this box with some styling. Now if I go ahead and make use of this box small over here with the class name, you'll notice that it is now definitely getting that style implemented. So we have a box over here and we have this box small with the specific width and height. Now I want to give some color as well to this. To do that, I'll be making use of the style attribute, and within this I'll be passing it as an object. So the first thing that I'll be doing is I'll be specifying the font style, let's say, and the font style will be italic. So here I'll say italic, and next I'll have the background color. Now here we'll have the camel case notation, so we'll say background, then capital C color, and let's give it light blue. Let's save this, and there we have our light blue box. Since this is a small box, let's give this text light blue small box. Let's break it down over here a bit. So now we have a div which has this class name box and box is small and a style with font style italic and background color light blue. Similarly, I can go ahead and create few more boxes like box medium and box large. So let's go ahead and do that as well. So now I have updated this div with these three divs. So we have a small light blue box over here. Then we have this medium green box. And finally, we have this large brown box. Now, if you see over here, we are having a fair amount of duplication in these. Basically, we are having a component which we are creating a number of times. So what we can do is reduce this to a functional component and then make instances of that component. So let's go ahead and create a function. We'll be calling this as a box. So we'll say function, and then the name of the function will be box, and over here it is going to take some props, that is the properties that we will be passing to that particular component. So we have this box, and now this is going to return something. It is going to return a div in our case. So we'll be writing that over here as return, and then we'll say div, and the properties that we are passing will be spreading those out. So here we'll be making use of the spread operator, and then we'll say props, and finally we'll be closing this div and returning it. Now in order to make use of this box, what we'll do is we will be replacing these divs with our box definition. So here we'll have box, here as well, and here as well, and then we will be closing these boxes as well. So instead of closing div, we'll be replacing these with closing box. Now we have the box component. Let's save this. And here you can see that we are still getting the same result. Now over here, what we can do is we can further optimize this. We can further make this a little more useful by taking the repetition from each one of these boxes instance and putting it within the box component itself. First off, we have, as you can see, a class name. And then it has this box and then box dash dash. But the size is different. You can see small, medium, and large. So let's go ahead and just take the class name box. We'll just put the class name over here in our box component. So instead of props, I'll be taking this out, and here I'll say class name. Now, as we are going to pass more than one parameter, I'll have to deconstruct this, and here I'll be now putting class name, and the remaining attributes that will be passing can be passed with the rest parameter. So here the rest will be a spread operator, and what we'll do next is we'll take this class name, and here inside this div we'll have this class name equal to, and with that we'll have this class name specified again, and then we have the rest of the attributes. So once we do that, we'll be passing just the box over here, not box medium or box large. So we have our class name applied. If I save this, you can see that it is now coming up over here, but all the boxes are now of same size. We do have the colors applied because here the rest attribute that we had is basically passing on this style to this box component. Now, what we need to do is we also need to pass the size along with the class name. So what we can do over here is we can prefix this class name value. So box, as you can see, is same across all. So what we can do is we can set it as the default. So over here, what we can do is we'll be making use of string interpolation over here, and then we'll say box, and after that the class name that we will be passing will be made part of this whole class, and finally we'll be closing it in this way. So now I don't need these boxes over here, but I do need these box large, medium, and box small. So let's go ahead and replace these box with box medium, small, and large accordingly. So here we are going to update these. Now let's go ahead and save this. And there you go. You have now successfully created this function which is now able to take the different sizes from the class name attribute and then the rest of the parameters from the style attributes. We can further optimize this by getting rid of this class name and introducing a different attribute. Let's call it size, so that we can remove this redundancy of box small, box medium, box large. So let's go ahead and remove this class name from here and introduce size as small, and similarly we'll have size as medium and then size as large. So here I'll be updating these values, medium, and what next we need to do is we need to pass along this size attribute as well. So let's pass it over here as size, and what we'll do with this size, we'll be creating that class name that we were creating over here directly. So inside this box component, what I can do is I can declare a variable, and let's call that size class name, and then we'll be making use of that size if it's there. So small, medium, and if it's there we will be prefixing box dash dash, something that we were doing with the class name over here. So we were prefixing the box and then the additional class name was coming along. Now we are creating this variable size class name, and we'll be utilizing this over here So if the class name is passed, it's fine. If not, then it is going to make use of the size class name. So now if I go ahead and save this, you don't see any change in the layout or appearance of these boxes. But over here, you can see this undefined is coming up. So what we can do to get rid of this undefined, because over here, it is expecting a class name. So we can provide a default value to this class. If it is not provided by the user, then it will have an empty value. So let's save this now and review this. So this time around, you don't see that coming up, but there is a space, extra space that is coming between box and box is small, something that we can live with. But if you want to get rid of that as well, you can trim this over here and then make use of the size class name. Next, what we can do to further optimize this box is fixing the font style. Over here, you can see that we are using the font style italic for all the instances of the box. So over here, in our component that we have created, we can definitely make use of the style attribute. So just before the rest, what we can do is we can introduce the style attribute. Now with the style attribute, we have this same syntax that we had over here. So let's copy font style italic from this place and put it over here. So we now have font style italic, and the additional style that we are passing will be made part of the style block itself. So here we need to have style now. So let's go ahead and pass that style as a separate parameter from the rest. Now over here we'll be making use of style and putting it over here using the spread operator. So the font style will come as italic, and then whatever is part of the style attribute will be spread over here. So we now have font style as well. So let's go ahead and get rid of this font style italic from this place. And now we are only left with unique values that this component needs. So we have our size and then style. Let's save this now. And there you go. You have a full-blown box component which is able to take up any customization. So even if you have any additional attribute that you would like to pass, like over here, box small as the ID attribute, let's save this and inspect this box small now. Over here you can see that it has this ID box small. So you have the leverage to pass on additional parameter, and those will be rendered using this rest spread operator that we have passed as an additional parameter. And these three are now being used to ensure proper styling of these boxes based on the styles that we have defined in our CSS. Now, one thing that I would like to note over here is that if you see this class coming up in the debug console, under elements we have this class box is small, but for that we are actually using the class name. Now the reason why we are not using class and class name is because class is a reserved keyword. Now other thing that I would like to highlight over here is the style attribute. So style attribute, as you can see, is an object and not a string of styles. It's because it's a lot easier to combine objects of styles. As you can see over here, we just ensured that the common pieces of this style are mentioned as is, and then whatever rest of the items that we are passing is spread using the style parameter that we just now made part of the box element. And the other thing is, with class name, the sequencing doesn't matter. So as long as the class is present in this class name string, it is going to appear. But with styling, you cannot just put this style operator before and then have font style. If I go ahead and do this and separate it with a comma, and let's save this, you'll notice that the font style italic is not being provided at all. So here the sequence matters. So let's go back and revert this, and there you go. You have the italics coming up. So now let's go ahead and review everything that we have done. We had a bunch of CSS that we created, and we wanted to apply to our divs here to make a small light blue box, a medium green box, and a large brown box. We did that manually by making divs for each one of these and applying the appropriate class name and style value. Then, in an effort to reduce duplication, we created a function called box, which accepts a class name, combines that with the class name necessary to make a box, accepts a style property, and combines that with the style necessary to make a box with a font style of italic. Also, accepting a size property to separate the code for the users of the box component from the code necessary to make a box of that specified style. Then we take the rest of the props and spread that on the underlying div so that users can provide additional props like ID as well as the children prop for the contents of the box.